My best friend is the ultimate golden boy. Everyone who gets close to me is actually trying to get to him. My girlfriend, Vivian Lynn, was no exception. One night, she sat up in bed, lit a cigarette, and said to me, "Elias is moving abroad next year. I can't take it anymore. I have to try. You understand, right? If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have even noticed you. Elias is my best friend." I paused for a second. I felt like Vivian hadn't finished her sentence. She probably meant I wouldn't have lowered myself to you rather than I wouldn't have noticed you. Vivian looked down on me. I'd known that since before we even started dating. She was an heiress in the art world, gorgeous, and used to being the center of attention. She only stumbled when it came to Elias. Otherwise, she never would have dreamed of getting tangled up with me. My features are plain, my personality is average, and I'm the kind of guy who disappears in a crowd. I am definitely not Vivian's type. She likes men like Elias, dazzling, cold, and captivating. Seeing that I didn't react, Vivian smirked and leaned in, pinching my chin. She blew smoke in my face, her eyes full of mocking laughter. "What? Don't tell me you're actually going to miss me? We talked about this when we started. I only stayed with you to get closer to Elias." She got out of bed and pulled on a gray sweatshirt. "Fine. I get it." I interrupted her, my expression calm. I knew Vivian would bring this up eventually, it just happened a little sooner than I expected. But thinking about it, the timing was actually perfect. My own time here was running out. To be honest, I did have some regrets. Vivian was beautiful and had an incredible body, but more importantly, she had the skill and passion to keep me satisfied in bed. She was a qualified, even excellent partner in that regard. I'm a man, I have needs, especially over the last few years. As the pressure and pace of work intensified, those needs had subconsciously grown. And Vivian was like a tireless siren. In that department, she was always more than happy to oblige. Not to mention, she was more careful about protection than anyone, which saved me the trouble of worrying about it. The moment I spoke, Vivian froze. She turned to study my face, then let out a sudden, scoffing laugh. "You're more realistic than I thought. I wonder who it was that begged and pleaded to be with me in the first place." Her face was darker than before I'd answered, and her voice sounded like she was suppressing something. She seemed almost aggressive. I thought about it, then tilted my head to look at her. "Elias's dance company is having a gala tomorrow afternoon. I'll send you the address later." At the mention of Elias, Vivian's eyes lit up. Her expression softened significantly. She hurriedly grabbed a coat and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned back and raised an eyebrow triumphantly. "Smart move." 3 minutes after Vivian left, my phone buzzed. The screen showed a fresh transfer, $75,000. Well, Vivian certainly was generous when it came to money. Whether this was a breakup fee or a reward for the intel, the money was timely. I transferred 15,000 of it to another account. I sent a message, "Professor Miller, I've pulled together the fees for the exchange program." Looking back, Vivian and I didn't exactly have a dignified start. It happened right after Elias had rejected her 5th grand confession. She was sitting in the corner of a bar, drowning her sorrows. Her collar was unbuttoned, messily revealing her collarbones and pale skin. Of course, she wasn't exactly alone. As usual, several handsome guys were hovering around her. So when I walked over, I stood out like a sore thumb. Vivian lazily lifted an eyelid to look at me, waving a hand to dismiss the guys around her. The dim lights reflected in her bleary eyes as she gave me a half smile. "Well, if it isn't Mr. Elias's best bud, Brad Johnston. What do you want with me?" We were standing very close. Close enough that an outsider might have mistaken her for liking me. In reality, it was the opposite. She didn't even look at me like I was a man, but I acted like I hadn't noticed. I took another step forward and met her eyes. "I'm here to help you. You know, I'm the person who knows Elias best." I couldn't help it, I'd wanted her for a long time. I've always been the type to do whatever it takes to get what I want. When people are stressed, they look for an outlet. I was no exception. So, to be more accurate, I didn't beg her in the beginning. I was the one who seduced her. Under my persuasion, Vivian reluctantly agreed. She was more inexperienced than I expected, but she was also a faster learner than I could have imagined. When I woke up again, it was the next morning. Vivian was already awake, rubbing her temples as she surveyed the mess in the room. A shaky voice hissed through her teeth. You know, I was drunk. Sleeping with me seemed to be a massive humiliation for her. But even so, when she looked at me, her cheeks flushed. We went at it one more time after that. When we finished, Vivian hesitated, looking like she wanted to say something. I asked knowingly, maybe we could be. Before I could finish, she cut me off with a sharp inhale. We can date, but it has to be a secret from Elias. Of course, I'll give you the exclusive boyfriend treatment. As she said it, the corners of her pretty eyes turned up, looking at me with a touch of pride. She seemed to be waiting for an excited or grateful reaction. I didn't give her one. I was just stunned. I silently swallowed the words I hadn't finished. Maybe we could be friends with benefits? From then on, I agreed to every one of Vivian's demands for secrecy and helped her learn about Elias. She thought I was so in love with her that I was speechless with shock and willing to compromise everything. In reality, I just didn't care. I liked her young, beautiful, energetic body. I also liked the status and connections she had that could help expand Elias's influence. As for anything else, I wasn't interested. The dance company's gala was held at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. It was a celebration for Elias's modern dance performance, which had caught the eye of a top international theater director. He would be going on a massive world tour next year. With that news, the company's value had skyrocketed. Everyone was beaming with joy. The moment Elias saw me, he walked over and threw an arm around my shoulder. He leaned in, his breath smelling of alcohol as he whispered in my ear, "You finally made it. We were just waiting for you." He handed me a cocktail. "Here, Brad. Your favorite, a Sunset Strip. I heard you and Vivian broke up? Good riddance. She's a snake and she's not good enough for you. I never liked her from the start. Elias, just put up with her a bit longer. Vivian is still useful to the company. Her parents have a lot of experience in the overseas markets." I took a sip of my drink and analyzed the situation rationally. I had never actually hidden my relationship with Vivian from Elias. The secrecy and Elias's ignorance were entirely a performance for Vivian's benefit. The reason was simple. I didn't care about her, so why would I help her keep a secret from my own best friend? As for seducing her, that was mostly a joke. If she really hadn't been interested, I couldn't have forced her. She made her choices and she had to deal with the consequences. While Elias was still complaining to me about Vivian, there was a commotion at the entrance of the ballroom. Vivian had arrived. She was wearing a brand new, high-end white power suit with an exquisite brooch on the lapel. Even her hair had been meticulously styled into an elegant bun, highlighting her perfect jawline. She was carrying a massive bouquet of vibrant red roses. She looked like a white peacock desperate to fan its feathers. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but comment, "Why is she so overdressed?" Elias glanced over and laughed. "I guess when the personality is basic, you have to compensate with the accessories." Vivian didn't hear Elias's mockery. She marched over from across the room to present her gift. I habitually stepped back, giving them space. I found a dessert table and started eating some cake. The cake at this hotel was actually fantastic. Vivian must have been off her meds. As she chatted enthusiastically with Elias, she kept glancing at me out of the corner of her eye. Her gaze was strangely resentful. It was incredibly awkward. Fed up with her staring, I decided to leave the ballroom to get some air. But Elias hurried over and caught me. He pushed me toward a stunning, mixed-race woman. "Brad, don't leave yet. I want to introduce you to someone." The woman reached out and shook my hand elegantly. "Hello, handsome. Just call me Grace." I knew Elias was trying to help me get over the breakup by introducing me to a beautiful woman. I've always been grateful to Elias. His dazzling light attracted countless high-quality women. And because of him, I was lucky enough to get close to them and achieve my goals. More than half of these women would normally have ignored me or treated me with total indifference. But because of Elias, they felt forced to suck up to me, even going all out to impress me. Vivian was just the most ordinary of the bunch. She just happened to be the one I stayed with the longest. Sometimes she did give me the wrong idea. For instance, on holidays, she would stay in with me like a normal couple. We'd do couple things. We'd cuddle, then go to the grocery store together. After shopping, we'd go home and make hot pot. After eating, she'd insist on watching a horror movie to set the mood. In the end, she'd just end up huddled in my arms, terrified. Those days were happy. Even now, thinking back on them felt a little bittersweet. But that was all. I had more important things to do. Grace, standing in front of me, was a perfect candidate. Her family traced back 3 generations of British nobility. They were highly respected in the art world, specifically in painting. I'd recently heard that her family was looking to expand into the dance world. The beautiful woman didn't seem to know that I had already researched everything about her. She continued to introduce herself animatedly. At the right moment, I interrupted her. I smiled and asked, "What do you think of Elias?" Grace paused and instinctively looked at Elias. Her eyes showed that familiar look of admiration and emotion. His dancing is flawless. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I saw him last. Of course, her gaze slowly fell back on me. "You're very impressive too, Mr. Johnston. I heard you're responsible for more than half of Elias's choreography. The designs are breathtaking. I heard you also handle the music, the directing, and other production elements." This woman was unusually polite. She was the first person who, after praising Elias, also praised me. And it wasn't in a comparative way, it was a very objective evaluation. Most women didn't care at all about the behind-the-scenes work I did. Just then, Elias was surrounded by a crowd and led to the stage to cut the cake. "Aren't you going?" I asked Grace curiously. Almost everyone who had a crush on Elias was huddled around him, including Vivian. Grace shook her head and smiled at me. "It's too crowded over there. I think the view from here is just right." This Grace was even more interesting than I thought. While everyone was toasting and congratulating Elias, Grace suddenly looked at me. "Forgive me for being blunt, but aren't you jealous?" If anyone else had asked that, I would have thought they were trying to drive a wedge between us or pick a fight. But Grace's eyes were filled with the curiosity of someone exploring something new, without a hint of malice. So I answered, with a question of my own. "Are you jealous of your siblings?" Grace wasn't the first person to ask me this. Between 2 brothers, one is as bright as the sun, while the other is as quiet as grass. With such a massive gap, it would be a lie to say there was no jealousy. But that didn't affect my feelings for Elias. Those feelings were far stronger than mere jealousy. It was like a blood bond, actually, it was stronger than blood. At my answer, Grace gave a self-deprecating smile. "I'm sorry. I was being reckless. To apologize, please allow me to formally invite you to join the Wilson Foundation as our lead partner and head choreographer. Although we haven't ventured into dance before, the terms we can offer you are better than anyone else's." I interrupted her knowingly. "What's the catch?" She hesitated, looking at me, then said awkwardly, "We would hope that you could bring Mr. Elias along with you. That would be ideal." As expected, everyone who approached me was ultimately after Elias. I'd encountered many buy one, get one free offers like this before. I was the free one. Sensing that she had misspoken, Grace added frantically, "Of course, I genuinely admire and value your choreographic talent first, Mr. Johnston. Please don't misunderstand me. In my eyes, you are a truly exceptional man." "Really? I don't believe you." I looked at her with a smile, my voice soft. "Unless you come outside and talk to me about it." If she had looked up at me then, she would have seen the calculated look in my eyes. Unfortunately, she was so flustered her face was beet red. She looked down and let me lead her out into the courtyard. "Mr. Johnston, what did you want to talk about?" Grace plucked up her courage and looked me in the eye. Her face was even redder now. It was actually kind of cute. I could see my own smiling reflection in her clear, amber eyes. Then that reflection moved closer. "If you admire me so much, call me Brad next time." I leaned down and kissed those tightly pressed lips. Grace went from being stiff and lost to taking the lead. Apparently, women are all naturals at this. After a while, I heard footsteps behind me. and a familiar voice. It was Vivian calling my name. Brad Johnston. Her voice was low, as if she were desperately trying to control her rage. What the hell are you doing? I stopped and apologized to Grace. Then I turned to look at Vivian. I stated a simple fact. Kissing. Can't you tell? At those words, Vivian's hands clenched into fists at her sides. She stared at me and started lashing out. We just broke up, and you're already that desperate? You just met her. Or are you just that easy? Yeah, I replied calmly, not letting her get to me. What, is it only okay for you women to do whatever you want? Are men not allowed? That one sentence shut Vivian up. Not wanting to ruin Elias's party, I turned to leave. But she grabbed me again. Before she could speak, I beat her to it. Weren't you the one who wanted to keep our relationship a secret? What are you doing now? What if Elias sees us? How are you going to explain yourself then? Sure enough, at the mention of Elias, Vivian completely deflated. She stiffly let go of my arm, though her expression remained grim. That was when Elias's voice sounded behind us. Hey, what are you guys doing out here? It was an incredibly awkward scene, especially for Vivian, being caught this close to me in front of the guy she was obsessed with. As soon as she heard Elias's voice, she scrambled back a few steps. As if trying to prove something, she turned and explained frantically, I was just asking Brad what his favorite foods are so I can take him out to dinner sometime to thank him. You can ask him yourself. Vivian instinctively turned back to me for confirmation. But all she saw was my back as I walked away with Grace. For a moment, she didn't know why she had a sudden urge to chase after me. Even the smile on her face became forced. In the end, her feet felt like they were made of lead, and she didn't move an inch. The gala was winding down. Grace and I walked out to the curb. I gave her an apologetic smile. I'm sorry you had to witness that mess. Vivian that's the second time you've apologized to me. Grace interrupted with a smile, her beautiful amber eyes sparkling under the dim streetlights. You don't need to do that. A charming man is bound to have many pursuers. So, can I be one of those pursuers and give you a ride home? She was staring at me so intently. She looked a little dazed and incredibly beautiful. For some reason, she reminded me of a Persian cat, pure white and noble. It was totally unfair. Couldn't say no. Not that I wanted to. Why turn down a meal delivered to my door? But Grace was more reserved than I expected. When she said give you a ride home, she literally meant just a ride home. But we'd have more time later. There was no rush. After saying goodbye to Grace, I headed up the stairs to my apartment. I opened the door in the dark, and a figure by the window was immediately visible in the moonlight. She was leaning against the wall, slowly looking up at me. She said through gritted teeth, Brad, I really underestimated you. What's with that look? Were you planning on bringing that woman back here as soon as I was out of the picture? I resisted the urge to punch something. Damn it, I almost forgot she had a key. I was changing the locks tomorrow. I'm looking like this because you scared the hell out of me. And what are you even doing here? Vivian, I'm pretty sure we broke up.
I fragnet er her.
My words seemed to ignite something in her. She marched over to me. Fine. You're something else, Brad Johnston. Don't you dare regret this. You think that fake little foreign girl is actually good for you? She's probably just playing with you. Unlike her, I was completely calm. I just nodded. Okay. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend anyway. Just a bit of fun. My dismissive attitude caught Vivian off guard. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not here because I care about you. You know, I'd never look twice at you with Elias around. I know. I nodded again. It wasn't like this was news to me. But Vivian's face suddenly went dark. The veins in her neck were bulging with rage as she growled, Brad Johnston, are you an NPC? Do you even have emotions? With that, she slammed the door and stormed out. I smoothed back the hair that had been ruffled by the draft. I really wanted to tell her that this is just how chill people are, especially since I didn't have much emotion for her to begin with. After that day, Vivian seemed to lose her mind. She started pursuing Elias even more aggressively. It was so public that everyone knew. Fireworks and roses were just the tip of the iceberg. To get on Elias's good side, She even started outbidding the international theater directors. I knew she was trying to keep Elias in the country. This bidding war became a hot topic in the media, and Elias's value skyrocketed as a result. In that sense, she was useful. But Elias was reaching his breaking point. Once, I accompanied Elias to a performance at the theater. Suddenly, 5 Maseratis appeared on each side of the entrance. A long red carpet was rolled out from the door right to our feet. Then some cheesy saxophone music started playing. Before we could react, the car doors opened. 8 bodyguards in black suits walked out carrying flower baskets and started throwing petals. Rose petals fell from the sky, covering Elias's head. My eye wouldn't stop twitching. Then I saw Vivian, in a tailored suit skirt, walking out of the theater toward us along the red carpet with a massive bouquet of roses. The spectacle drew the attention and cameras of countless passers-by. Elias gripped my arm harder and started backing away behind me. He looked like he was about to faint. I patted his hand to comfort him, but he grabbed me back, his voice trembling with despair. It's over. Vivian is completely lost in her own art. She has no idea how ridiculous this is. I looked at the tacky, expensive scene and was speechless too. Vivian was oblivious. She walked up to Elias with her head held high. She thrust the flowers into his arms. Good luck with the show, Elias. Elias's smile looked more like a grimace, but he managed a polite thank you. That one word made Vivian even more triumphant. She even glanced sideways at me. I wasn't imagining it. When she handed him the flowers, she had pointedly glared at me. God, I really didn't want to know her. Go home, kid. Just go home. Her biggest priority right now should be deleting whatever trashy romance apps she was reading. Unlike Vivian's disastrous pursuit of Elias, things between Grace and me were going incredibly smoothly, except she seemed to have a problem in one specific area. One night, after we finished discussing some business, she drove me home. I invited her up for some tea. She told me she wasn't thirsty. Hearing that, a spark of irritation flared up, specifically in my lower abdomen. She wasn't thirsty, but I was. Lately, between preparing for the exchange program and dealing with Vivian's nonsense, I'd been incredibly stressed. I needed a release. I was both thirsty and hungry. It wasn't too much to ask for one last big meal before I left, right? So the next day, using business as an excuse, I invited Grace to my place. I made some bullshit excuse about confidentiality. Maybe it was because she wasn't from here, but Grace bought it completely. But I wasn't entirely lying. I did want to talk business. You know how much hype Elias has right now. Your side needs to give up at least this much more. And considering his long-term development abroad, the Wilson family should arrange for at least 3 years of major tours, and the profit sharing needs to be renegotiated. Grace looked at the contract, then suddenly looked up and asked me, "What about you? You've mentioned Elias so much. Don't you have any demands for yourself, Brad?" The question caught me off guard. It was the first time anyone had asked me that. It doesn't matter for me. The focus of this deal is Elias anyway. I was starting to feel a bit warm and was sweating a little. I reached for a hair tie to pull back my slightly long hair, only to remember I'd cut it short. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Grace staring at me with those sparkling amber eyes. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. "Why are you looking at me like that?" She smiled shyly. "Brad, there's a saying here that a man is most attractive when he's working hard, right? I didn't get it before, but now I do. You have more charisma when you're working than anyone I've ever met." Even though I'd seen all kinds of women, such a direct, unvarnished compliment still made my face flush. That reminded me of why I'd called her over in the first place. The fire inside me was flickering again. She started it, so she had to finish it. I didn't hold back anymore. I moved closer and pushed Grace down onto the sofa. "I hope you're not lying to me. If I'm that charismatic, you shouldn't have any problem with what I'm about to do." Then my lips were on hers. This time, Grace was less inexperienced. She had more technique. I suspected she might have been doing some homework on her own. But I didn't mind. I was the one enjoying it. I soon realized that Grace didn't have a problem at all. I was the one with the problem. Specifically, a back problem. Grace's stamina was even better than Vivian's. The lights in my apartment stayed on all night. The next day, I woke up feeling satisfied and headed out for a walk. I ran into the old guy who lived downstairs. He came over to chat as soon as he saw me. "Hey Brad, was that your new girlfriend last night? She's a real beauty." I gave an embarrassed smile. "No, just a friend. She had a few too many and crashed here. We didn't disturb you, did we?" He waved it off. Then his tone shifted. "It's a good thing you guys were busy. You have no idea how creepy it was last night." He pointed to a trash can not far away. "Right there. There was a shadow standing there all night, looking up at your window. And it kept making this sobbing sound, like a ghost. Scared the life out of me." "A ghost? What kind of ghost?" I just took it as a weird story and forgot about it. Until the next night. My phone suddenly rang. An urgent voice from a medical professional came through the line. "Hello, is this Mr. Brad Johnston?" "Yeah, this is he. Ms. Lynn was just in a rear-end collision and is unconscious. She keeps calling your name. We had to call you. Could you come down here?" I was silent. Vivian sure knew how to cause trouble for me. After weighing my options, I got up and headed to the hospital. On the way, I called some reporters I knew and told them to keep a lid on the story. I didn't want to wake up to a headline like, "Heiress rear-ends car in late-night despair over dance prince." When I got to the hospital, Vivian was lying in bed with her eyes closed, her arm in a cast, and in 4 drip running. I went to pay the fees and handle the paperwork. By the time I got back to the room, she was awake. She stared at me, her voice hoarse. "Brad, you actually came." I nodded and sat in the chair by her bed. "Are you just bored? Is that why you're creating extra work for me?" I might be chill, but that doesn't mean I don't have a temper. Being dragged out in the middle of the night for this, the fact that I wasn't swearing was a testament to my patience. But Vivian acted like she hadn't heard me. She asked, "Are you with that woman now?" I rubbed my temples in frustration and looked at her, confused. "You called me all the way here just to ask that? What does it have to do with you?" At that, Vivian's hands clenched into fists, making the 4-needle wobble. "What do you mean, what does it have to do with me? I'm your girl. Wake up. We broke up." I interrupted her, raising my voice. I pressed the nurse call button. A nurse came in quickly to readjust the needle. I sighed and decided to lay it all out. "Vivian, I really don't get what you're trying to do. If you want Elias, stop coming to me. You were the one who wanted to keep us a secret. But now you're back and forth, respecting neither me nor Elias. What if I stop chasing him?" Vivian looked down, murmuring under her breath. I was stunned. She looked up with red eyes. "I'm done with Elias. Can we please not break up? Just like before. And don't stay with that foreign girl." She tried to grab my sleeve with her good hand. Those proud eyes were now filled with tears, looking at me pitifully. A beautiful woman crying should be a heartbreaking sight. But a beautiful woman who won't listen is just annoying. I stepped back to avoid her hand and frowned.
Vivian, no.
A breakup is a breakup. And I really don't understand what you're agonized about. You don't even like me. But I do like you, damn it. Before I could finish, Vivian blurted it out in a raspy voice. Thump. Her hand hit the bed hard. As if admitting total defeat, she looked at me pleadingly. I thought I liked Elias, but every time I looked at him, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I didn't even realize it. I actually fell for you. Brad, I don't want to break up. The room went silent after that ridiculous confession. I gave a small, mocking laugh. But I don't like you, Vivian. The truth I'd held for so long was finally out. I turned to leave. Vivian's eyes immediately turned red again. I don't believe you. If you didn't like me, why did you let me be your girlfriend? Even if you hate me, you don't have to say things like that. I never liked you, so why would I hate you? Also, nobody ever said a girlfriend has to be someone you like. Try to be a dignified ex. Don't come looking for me anymore. I leaned against the doorframe and said those final words before leaving. Looking at her face, which had gone even paler under the fluorescent lights, I figured that was it for Vivian and me. She was a proud person, after all. But I underestimated Vivian's persistence. Elias's final performance of the year was likely to be his last one in the country, and the hype was insane. The media swarmed the venue. The auditorium was packed. Under the spotlights, the music for Swan Lake began. The silver beams hit his white costume, making it sparkle. Every one of Elias's landings, turns, and jumps took everyone's breath away. To me, he was a celestial being born for the stage. When it ended, almost everyone stood up. The applause was deafening. But then the lights suddenly went out. Rose petals started falling from the ceiling. The audience gasped. I was watching from behind the curtain, calling security on my radio to maintain order. But a second later, the silver spotlight focused on me. The curtain was yanked open. That familiar saxophone music started playing. Vivian, holding a massive bouquet of roses, walked toward me from the back of the theater. Every eye in the house turned to me. This woman, did she have any idea what she was doing? The spotlights felt like they were burning me. A suffocating wave of anxiety washed over me. It was like I was back in that nightmare from years ago. And then, Vivian stopped in front of me and knelt on one knee to present the flowers. Brad, you said you don't like me. That's fine. I'm going to pursue you now. I love you, Brad Johnston. The cameras kept clicking. To everyone else, this was probably a romantic dream. But for me, it wasn't. Rage and disgust twisted inside me, making my vision blur. My voice was trembling. Vivian, if I didn't like you before, I hate you now. I absolutely hate you. Who gave you the right to ruin Elias's final show? By the end, I could barely breathe. Vivian finally noticed something was wrong. Her face went white, and she tried to step forward to help me. Brad, I didn't mean to. Get the hell away from him. Elias appeared in front of me. He never swore, but he had just snapped. He took my hand, his warmth grounding me. Just like so many times before, he was pulling me out of the darkness. Slap. Elias slapped the stunned Vivian across the face. He pointed at her and shouted coldly, "Are you a complete moron? He told you he doesn't like you, and you still force him onto the stage to listen to your bullshit. A few weeks ago you were stalking me, and now it's Brad? Is your love like a flyer on the street? Does everyone get a copy? Security, get this thing out of here." Everything that followed was a blur. Security dragged Vivian away on Elias's orders. Reporters pushed forward, desperate to capture the scandal. The voices, the footsteps, and the noise blended into a roar in my ears. The darkness began to swallow me again. I heard Elias's frantic voice. Brad, Brad. But I felt completely safe. Elias and I have known each other since we were kids. In elementary school, we were in the same modern dance class. Unlike Elias, who was always front and center, I was just average, competent, but unremarkable. For our first public performance, I was lucky enough to be positioned right next to Elias. I was the green leaf meant to set off the flower. But I didn't hate it. In fact, I loved it. From the first day of class, I had watched Elias's dancing bloom. It was so beautiful, so intoxicating. So when Elias smiled at me and said, "Your name is Brad, right? Can I call you Brad? We can dance together from now on." At that moment, I thought, maybe dancing next to Elias is a gift from God. I promised myself I wouldn't mess it up. But things didn't go as planned. I stood on that stage, and when the spotlights hit me, I froze. The steps I had practiced 1,000 times vanished. I didn't know why. My eyes filled with tears, and I tried desperately to move, but I stumbled. I'm going to ruin everything. The whispers and the hostile glares from the audience started to close in. But Elias caught me. He didn't blame me. He just gripped my hand firmly. He stepped in front of me, blocking the audience's view, and whispered, "It's okay. Everyone gets nervous. Brad, I'm right here. Don't be afraid." That first performance was a disaster. Despite Elias's explanations, many of the other students were furious with me. They started bullying me behind his back. But Elias always took my side. He'd pull me along and go settle the score with him. Later, I was diagnosed with stage fright. I quit the dance class, but we stayed best friends. One winter, he took me out to see the snow. On the way home, he was hopping around excitedly. He turned back to look at me, sounding a bit hesitant. Brad, my teacher talked to me yesterday. There's an exchange program in Paris next semester. They said I could bring one classmate. Do you want to try? I'm okay, Elias. I interrupted him without hesitation. I just looked at him. Under the streetlights, with the warm glow behind him, Elias looked like a sprite with wings. The words just came out. I found something I'd rather do. I wanted that beautiful dancing, that beautiful Elias to be seen by the world. He deserved a more dazzling stage. Just thinking about it made the snowflakes on my face feel warm. On that winter day, I found my summer light. Everyone thought he was those women's golden boy. But no one knew that he was mine, too. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. The first thing I saw was Vivian. She looked terrible, with deep dark circles under her eyes. She clearly hadn't slept. When she saw me wake up, she stood up shakily and looked down. Tears hit the floor. Her lips trembled as she hurried to apologize. I'm so sorry, Brad. I didn't know you had stage fright. If I had known, I never would have done that. Please believe me. Vivian looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. I really do love you, Brad. I frowned. I didn't even have the energy to get mad. I just turned my head away and said quietly, Vivian, we were together for 3 years, right? If you really loved me, you wouldn't have spent 3 years not knowing about my condition. After all, you're the person who made sure to find out what brand of bottled water Elias likes best. So, can you stop disgusting me now? Vivian tried desperately to explain. No, that's not it, Brad. I just didn't understand my own heart before. But I'm not lying now. I swear. She lowered her lashes, her voice raspy with pleading. Please, just give me one more chance. It doesn't matter anymore. I looked at her coldly. I don't want to see you now, and I won't see you in the future. I'm moving to Europe with Elias. Vivian opened her mouth as if to say more. But there was a commotion at the door. Elias came bursting in, swearing. He stood in front of me like a mother hen protecting a chick. For a billionaire's daughter, you're incredibly shameless. You waited until I went to get lunch to come harass my Brad? I'm telling you, I'm not playing around. If you keep this up, I'm calling the cops. Elias shouted toward the hallway. Can someone help? There's a crazy person harassing a patient. Security. Vivian was forced to leave. But before she went, she gave me a long, deep look. Looking at her back, Elias spat on the floor. You can't judge a book by its cover. Looks like a human, acts like a creep. Brad, stay away from people like that. I'll protect you next time. I smiled and nodded. Yeah, I believe you. By the way, what's the word on the street? Elias snorted. Don't worry about it. Let me tell you, the company lately, even though Elias acted like it was no big deal, I could tell he was trying to change the subject. I was usually the one who handled the PR. Elias wouldn't know how to deal with it on his own. After he left, I looked toward the door. You can come in, Grace. Grace had texted me earlier saying she wanted to visit. She peeked her head out from behind the door. I laughed. Why are you so afraid of Elias? She walked to the bed, looking like a dejected cat. Do you have any idea? Mr. Elias is currently at a level where he treats any woman within a 10-mile radius of you like a threat. Oh, I brought this for you. That's when I saw the bouquet she was hiding behind her back. Not roses, irises, my favorite flower. I gave her a grateful smile. Grace, I need a favor. Her eyes lit up instantly. It was like I was giving her a reward rather than asking for help. Name it. I'll do 10. I don't need 10. Actually, this involves the deal we talked about. There were too many reporters that night, we can't stop the rumors. But if we use them right, it's a perfect marketing opportunity. As I talked, Grace went silent. I looked up and found her staring at me again. I was starting to get worried about our future collaboration. What are you looking at? Grace gave an embarrassed smile. Sorry. I just got mesmerized looking at you. Great. Now I was the one who was embarrassed. Are people from England always this direct? I spent some time discussing the plan with Grace. After she left, and before Elias got back, I called several other women. Grace alone wasn't enough, I needed more leverage. Gossip accounts love to speculate, and in that last performance, Elias did several things he shouldn't have done. I wouldn't allow a single stain on his reputation. Those women were the perfect tools. They were all people who had approached me to get to Elias. Heiresses of media companies, famous art critics. Because I'd made an effort to maintain those connections, most of them were on good terms with me. Asking for a small favor wouldn't be an issue. In my eyes, none of those women were good enough for Elias. But in a way, they were essential. And unlike Elias, I was the invisible man behind the scenes. They didn't care about me, and they didn't pay attention to me. No one knew how manipulative I was. Elias, the dancer, deserved to be seen by the world. As for the methods, I didn't care what it took. After I was discharged, the rumors were successfully steered in a new direction. The media portrayed Elias as an independent powerhouse of the dance world. Handsome, strong, and dedicated to his art. He had finally had enough of a wealthy socialite's fickle pursuit and bravely rejected her during his curtain call. Vivian's reputation took a hit, obviously, but she didn't seem to care. Instead, she got even more aggressive in her bidding war against the European theater director. To the public, this just confirmed the media's story. Vivian was obsessed with Elias. Everyone was guessing which side Elias would choose. His fame was peaking. Until a month later, when the famous Wilson Group officially announced its entry into the modern dance world, and they announced their principal dancer, Elias. It was a bombshell. After several negotiations with Grace, it was clear that the Wilson family was putting everything they had into promoting this partnership. Turns out that when you throw a stone into water that's already boiling, the splash is even bigger. The same is true in the art world. Overnight, Elias became the most famous modern dancer in the country. Tickets for his first performance in London sold out instantly. The night before we left the country, Elias said he wanted to take me out to relax. Then he took me to a club and pushed a model into my arms on either side. While I was still stunned, Elias had already smoothly grabbed another model and started pouring water over her collarbone. It was the first time I'd ever seen this side of him. "I thought you thought I hated women?" Elias turned and winked at me. "I do hate women, at least the ones who are arrogant and look down on everyone while pretending to be nice. But what's wrong with this?" Elias used a finger to lift the woman's chin, like he was playing with a kitten. "This kind of woman is beautiful, has a great attitude, and most importantly, it's all on my terms. I can change them whenever I want." I made a mental note of Elias's preference, but I was still confused. "Then why did you bring me here?" The alpha Elias suddenly leaned in and threw an arm around me. His eyes were bright. "Brad, isn't this life great? We can just do whatever we want. Isn't this better than that foreign girl?" He meant Grace? I laughed. "Elias, you were the one who introduced Grace to me." "That doesn't count," Elias said, wrinkling his nose in dissatisfaction. "I wanted her to comfort you. I never expected you to fall so deep that you'd move to London for her. Even I don't get that kind of treatment." Was he jealous of Grace? There was really no need for that. I smiled and cupped Elias's face. "This has nothing to do with Grace. I chose London because you'll have opportunities there that you won't get anywhere else. You're the principal dancer now, aren't you? Besides," I sighed and said seriously, "I'm not staying in London. I'm going to Paris." When I told him my decision, Elias's eyes actually turned red. He demanded to know why I wasn't staying with him. I said, "Because I found something I'd rather do. Elias, a professor there, invited me. I want to study more choreography and directing. Parting is just for a better reunion. Right now, my choreography wasn't good enough to make Elias shine as brightly as he could. When we meet again, my golden boy, I will be your most loyal star." On the day of the flight, Elias hugged me again, sobbing, and wouldn't let go. I had to push him toward the check-in counter. He finally let go, looking miserable. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. It was Vivian, whom I hadn't heard from in a long time. Her voice was hoarse and sounded drunk. "Brad Johnston, you're not going to London or Paris, are you?" "Yeah." "You've been lying to me. You said that on purpose just to mess with me, you bastard." By the end, she was crying. I smiled. "What? Can't handle it?" But thanks anyway. Without you and the director driving up the price, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. After saying that, I hung up and blocked the number. I turned around and was surprised to see Grace was still there. Why aren't you checking in with Elias? I asked. She shook her head.
No, Rus.
I want to see you off first. At the gate, Grace looked up and sighed. I really thought you'd stay in London. There are plenty of master choreographers in London. I could have brought them all to you. I smiled. No thanks. I'm not used to relying on other people. But why are you so upset? You only lost the free gift. The important part is Elias. No. Grace looked up sharply, sounding particularly sensitive to that word. You were never a gift. I genuinely love you. She paused and added seriously, love your choreography. Her amber eyes were full of sincerity. It was like she wouldn't stop until I believed her. I laughed. Okay. I know you love my choreography. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the gate. Brad. Grace called out to me one last time. Will we see each other again? Maybe. She stepped forward, bowed, and kissed the back of my hand, just like when we first met. I will keep my promise. Elias will become the brightest star in the dance world. I truly hope you'll be there when it happens. I narrowed my eyes, a successful smirk hidden in them. If you keep your promise, I will be. After all, one day the stars always return to the moon, and the green leaf always longs to look up at the blooming flower again. The first time Grace saw Brad Johnston's choreography, she was still in college. Her family had raised her to have an independent and sharp artistic eye. So during her break, she went to China. She'd heard there was a lot of unique and beautiful art there. In an ordinary theater, she saw a modern dance performance unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was free from tradition and dogma, bursting with the beauty of life. When it ended, she instinctively stood up and cheered. A member of the audience nearby chatted with her in English. Were you captivated by the new lead dancer too? He's amazing. No, she shouted, startling the other person. The dancer was handsome, but what she was captivated by was the dance itself. The entire design made her desperate to know who was behind it. It had to be a brilliant and unique choreographer. Unfortunately, everyone only noticed the dancer. Hardly anyone knew anything about the choreographer. She only heard that he was also a college student. After that, whenever Grace had time, she'd buy a ticket and fly over to see the performances at that theater. Every time it brought her a new surprise. No one knew that she had become a fan of an anonymous choreographer. Later, she followed her family into the professional world. She gained more power and more information. So, when she learned that her family wanted to find a partner in the dance world, she grabbed the opportunity without hesitation. Finally, she stood in front of the choreographer she had dreamed of meeting. She was so nervous she couldn't even speak. The only thing she could hear was the pounding of her heart, telling her, he's the one. She was more than happy to be used by him,